Okay, let's start with sponsors, because we couldn't be here without the sponsors. If you're working for any of these companies, say thank you to them and thank you to you as well. I will just start by telling you a little bit very shortly about myself, as my name is, for real, Bjarney Sonja Ólafsdóttir. But as I live at the moment in Germany, it's not so easy to use that name, so I call myself Buddy. I also married to a German guy, so I got his last name. But originally, I'm from Iceland, where these beautiful Northern Lights come from. And we actually held a Northern Lights camp last year, which will probably be repeated next year, but not as Northern Lights camp, but as like a midnight summer camp, you know, in June. I have a degree in computer science. I studied also in Vienna. I did a master in engineering management, where I actually became a European champion in robotic football, where it wasn't very different from the situation now, because in 2008, there was a parallel to the European Championship in soccer or football. There was a European Robotic Championship, and I was competing for the TU Wien, which is the technical university in Vienna, and I was the only woman out of 200 competitors, which is very similar to the situation today, because there are not so many women here, unfortunately. But we became European champions. So, and this was in 2008, and probably around about that time, I also got to know Drupal, and been working with Drupal since then. But I have been active in the community probably for 5 or 6 years now. And these are my 2 kids, and they look really forward to every time we go to Drupal camps or Drupal events, because they always get t-shirts from Druid, which is one of their favorite companies. I am the founder of 1x Internet, and we are a Drupal shop in Germany and in Conil, Spain. And we have a team of 25 people, and our focus is just Drupal and React. We also are the creator of the distribution DEGOF. We are a Thunder integrator, certified integrator. We are also working on the OpenEDU distribution, as well as working a lot with Drupal Commerce. So we've been doing this for a couple of years now. So the agenda, I actually have a pack, like a lot of information for you. So basically, I'm going to tell you a little bit firstly about the project that I will showcase, because I want to showcase and show you a lot of cool paragraphs that we've been building. So I want to tell you first about the project. Then I want to tell you briefly about how you create content with paragraphs. Then when to use CK Editor, and how maybe potentially to make this decision, when to use what. And then in the end, I'm going to briefly show you the future of content editing, at least how we see it. But Ruben will also talk more about that tomorrow, right? About decoupled Drupal, headless Drupal. So let's just start. This is the project that I'm going to be showing you. This went live 1 year ago. It's a German organization, non-profit organization called Open Doors, and they have a website that has a lot of information about, it's called, I think in English, persecuted Christians. So they help. So all these red countries, they are dangerous for Christians, and they have a lot of information about that, and they update this information every year. So they have a lot of content. And we started this project around 2 years ago, and it went live 1 year ago, around about. So just briefly showing you, so it's a very colorful website, and also like with a Christian motif, so with a purple color. But just briefly showing you, if I get, let's see how the, what? No, yeah. So just so you get a little bit of the idea, we have a lot of landing pages where the client can basically create whatever he wants, the content himself. So here in the front we have a slider. We have, of course, the mega menu, which they can also add pictures. And then maybe I can also put this on. I think we're going to, can also demo it for you just on the website. Let me see. So basically, what we see here is that we have the slider. We have then all kinds of news sliders that you can insert. We have these paragraphs where they can put in different types of colors. They can choose if it is white or black, and they can choose the colors. We even have like little lines in between that they can also, to make the content a little bit more, that it's not so close to each other. We have also media tech. And please just look at the website, and I will go through a couple of paragraphs. But this is a very, for them it was very important to be able to create like little campaigns about certain topics. So they wanted to really have the flexibility to do that in the way that they want to. So, I'm going to play this again here. So facts about now I want to put on full screen again. So the project start was in May 2016, and then Drupal was in 8.1, and which there happened a lot from Drupal 8.0 to today. We went live with the website in 8.2.8 in March 2017. We also, in October 2016, started because it also has a shop. So this was one of the first Drupal 2 Commerce 2 shops that were actually put out. And that was because the product launch was in April, and Commerce 2 didn't come out until in the end of May with a release. But we just went live with a beta, and that was just not a problem. So how did we build it? We basically have only 4 content types. We start with the so-called landing page. And the landing page, and this is basically how we build all of our, or most of our websites. We have something called a landing page, and that uses paragraphs. And then we have the other content types, such as news, events, and in this case, a country profile. And what is a country profile? For them, they want to have a lot of information about the countries that were on the list in the beginning that you saw. So therefore, it's very important for them to be able to take, because they make these brochures with information about these countries. So they need to be able to paste a lot of text and then make the text look nice for the people who are reading it. So that doesn't fit at all for paragraphs, because in paragraphs you want to make the blocks, but the CK editor you can dump the text in and insert the pictures in between. So that's why we always do it like this, that we make events and news and basic page normally, which would then be in that sense country profile here, with using CK editor, and the landing page uses paragraphs. So this is how the landing page is. It just has a couple of fields, which are the teaser image, for example, and then it has the paragraphs. So they had a request of having 25 paragraphs. And this was actually very tricky, because in the beginning, they, I don't know how if you're used to these type of clients, but they basically want to be able to do everything that they can imagine. So we started by defining the paragraphs, and we gave them, because they also have a handbook for the editors, so we gave them these names, P0, P11, P12, P13, depending on if it's a hero or not, so they can have this in their handbook. So we have all these typical paragraphs, such as hero image, hero slider, then we have center text, news slider. Some of them we would probably do differently today, but this is was defined 2 years ago, so we would probably put some of them together today. But we also have media grid and more in there. So I'm going to show you a couple of, does anybody have a question? Everything good? Please feel free to ask a question. So I'm going to show you the hero image. So I don't know about you guys, but when the client comes, he basically says, I want to have a hero image which has information and a link. And you as a developer of that site, you just think this is easy, right? You're like, yeah, sure. I just put make a paragraph with an image, Title, okay, maybe a subtitle because I want it differently, and then just a link. So this is how normally you start building it, and you build it, you make the styling, and you show it to the client. The client starts using it, and then the client finds out that this is just not usable at all. And why? It's because this photo, and exactly this, what we got delivered from the designers, that fits really well when you have a photo like this. But not all photos are like this, because sometimes the photo of the person is on the other side, right? And sometimes the background here is really white, or, you know, like the color white or black. So what we found out really quickly, and this is what we did, and we always do in the very early phase before it actually goes out to the designer, we define with the client what is going to happen on this paragraph. Do you want to put in also photos that have a different color, which is most likely the case. So we have this discussion with the client, and we of course find out that this paragraph needs to not only be able to put the title up here, 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 in the middle, or all the way to the left, because the photo can be very different. Plus, you want to have different colors depending on what colors are on the photo. So as well, you want to be able to change the background. So this is why I told you that if you see not very well, please come in the front. Feel free to come down if you want to. But this basically is the paragraph. You have a content background color, which is for the title. You have a headline. You have a headline position. We just gave them position center, up, middle, down, and then on the right and the left. We have a subline. We have an image on it that obviously also have an alt text. And we have the link to put in it. So in the beginning, and especially when a developer is doing an estimation on a paragraph like this, he says, like, hey, it's easy. You know, it's like half a day. Done, and styling, a little bit of styling is a day. But obviously, what the client in the end wants is probably not that, and therefore we have the good product managers in our team that normally takes these estimations and multiply them with at least 3, because they know that the client will probably not be happy with that. So this is basically just how you have just these configuration on the paragraph, and then with some process functions, you just take the values from here and you just put that out to the template. So another very interesting paragraph is this one. Even more easy, right, than what we saw before. Except, again, here the client, of course, wanted to be able to put in different colors and different images also in behind. So just by showing you these examples, it's basically for those who are, mainly what I was thinking about here is for you that are, who are creating paragraphs. Make sure that you give the product managers and the people who are actually talking to the client information, like ask the relevant questions if they want to have this really flexible, or if they just want the normal paragraph with the text in it. So that's like a little bit of the feedback that I want to give to you as we are in dev days here. But this would be the center text. And when you go into edit, you then can put the background photo. You can, of course, like make all the magic in your CK editor. And you can put the background photo, and you can even put in a color as well. And you can put an anchor if you want to have it from the, like, linked from somewhere else. Okay, the news slider. This was also interesting because we have a very content-rich site. So it doesn't fit very well when you have a lot of news to always display all the news. So if you want to use this paragraph on other sites, you most likely want to have a contextual filter to the information that you are talking about in that note. So in this case, we have the news, and they are all linked to countries, so just with a tag. And what we created here is something called a news slider paragraph. And you can basically put this in everywhere on the site. And this paragraph only has one field. So if you look into the paragraph type, you will see that there is one field, and that's just a tag. So basically, the only thing you do, if you don't put anything in, you will get the news slider with all the news and the latest in front. But you can also put in a country. And what we just did there, and this is also very simple, but this is very powerful for the editors, is that just with contextual filter, this is up here, there is the taxonomy region. And again, just with some hook form function, you just take the value that the editor puts into the tag field on the paragraph, and then you just render the view and with the correct data in it. So again, this is actually a very simple one. This is probably much more simple than the hero slider that you probably think by looking at it is very simple. But this makes the editors of the website very happy to be able to put in really relevant news for that country, what they are talking about. For example, if they are having some information about that country. Okay, so then comes the question: what about reusable stuff? So can I see how many of you know paragraphs? Okay, very many. Okay, can I ask the other question? Are there anyone here that is new to paragraphs? Good. So I don't know about you, but when we speak to the client about paragraphs, they think that they can just reuse the paragraphs. But that they cannot do in the normal paragraphs. It could be that there are some modules, because I see here, I will need that information later. It could be there are some modules that allow that now. But at least 1.5 years ago, it didn't. So how did we solve that? And how do we generally solve reusable stuff? So in the DECOV distribution, and what I'm talking about reusable is something like this ad. This is an advertisement that they want to display all around the site. And they want to put it in between in the content. So they want to really use that as a paragraph. So what we did in this case, or in DECOV, in a distribution, we actually use media for reusable content. But in this particular case, we actually just used an entity type called the banner. And then we allow the user just to create their entities. So he basically creates here, the user, something called Drupal Open Doors Tag 2016. And then when he puts in the P7, banner image reusable, he basically just references that banner. But we also allowed him that you could also even, when you have press save, then you can even, when you go and edit next time, you can even go and you can edit it too. But then, of course, it will edit and change everywhere else. So keep that also in mind, that most likely when you're telling the client about the great paragraphs, most likely the client will think that paragraphs is something that is reusable. And so therefore make sure that you put in probably that, is there a module for it? Perfect. So it's an alpha for those who, yeah. So either put in some module for that, or at least make sure that, again, this is a very simple paragraph. This is just an one field entity reference. So another thing where I can just show you maybe is that it was very important, and for those who are used to paragraphs, that it's not so easy to use. Because when you go on edit on the node, you often see just a mess, and it's just very bad organized. And like you see here, it's actually really nice because you see it very clearly what is in this paragraph. So that is also something that is just built in, called the paragraph preview. So it's I'm just going to show you here how a normal node looks like. So here are the paragraphs, and here you see, for example, the hero slider. So we show all the sliders that are in. We show the text. We even show here what the colors are, and so on. And this is done with, if you go into Manage Display, you click the preview, so which is in Custom Display Settings, and then you can basically order and make the view for this, what you saw before, look good. So this is very helpful to make the editor happy, and it's very simple. Yeah, you have a question? It's this year, this preview, in the form. Yeah. Okay, so I could go through every single paragraph with you, but I hope that actually you get the idea, that it's very simple to actually create these paragraphs that have a link to contextual filters. And if anybody wants to get code snippets, please come to me. I did this talk also in London, and a couple of people came and they said that they really wanted to have this with the colors. And I just copied the preprocessed function for them and just sent it. And so if anybody is interested in that, then just give me your business card and I will send it to you. So, but what about the CK editor? Because I don't know about you guys, but we often, this is sometimes a headache for our team because you don't really always know like what contrib modules you should put in and what you need to do because in this case, we really want to allow the user to copy in a lot of text and then afterwards make it nice. So there are some special functions that we actually used and did. One of them was we created something to show the table of content, because if you have a really long site, it's really helpful to take the headings and just render them in a table of content so you can really easily go to there. Then we used the entity embed and the entity browser, so they were used for different, I don't know, is Artem here? No. So one of our developers, because there was a reason why we actually used both of them. Then we had a module called insert view. So there is also a module called that, but it was not ready back then. So we had to create it ourselves. And I don't know if they contributed that one. But where you can basically insert the news view in. And then, for example, to add something like a map. So I'm going to show you an example. This is a site that just has a very long CK editor. And this what is here on the left side. This is basically just rendered automatically based on the content. So again, a very simple thing to program, because you just take the headings and you put them into this little box and you show them, and then you just link it with anchors. So Drupal here, this one here, and now we go just down to here. So we always, in this case, also wanted to have it fixed there. But this is very helpful and very simple thing for the editor, because he only needs to know that that he needs to put the heading in I think heading 2. So what they did there, we created just a text format, a filter, and if he uses that filter, then this magic happens in the template. So the only thing that the editor needs to do, he needs to make sure it's heading 2, and he needs to make sure that the text format is then from the report, and then automatically this renders. So he can also choose not to. So this is how we insert a view. So basically, you can just choose the view in here, and then you can put the contextual filter in there. Again, I can give you all this code if you want to. So then the view just renders in between. There is something also in here. So we don't have very many pictures, because it's basically more about just adding, in this sense, things in here. The AM map. So I'm going to show you how that looks like. I think it is. That's, for example, this here. So we have some data in the node, and basically just by clicking the AM map, you can insert this AM map that takes these data from the node and just inserts it in there. So, because this is exactly, I'm showing you just the node itself, like the content type actually has more fields, and therefore we allow them just to insert it with all kinds of methods just directly in here. Are you using, good experience with paragraphs and versus CK editor? Like what we always have to decide on, and that's very important in the beginning, is that like in this case, it would never work to let the user first copy all the content into a paragraph and then start putting another paragraph and then remembering where to copy. So therefore, keep that in mind, that if you have a very long text that's potentially coming from somewhere else, that you can just actually use the CK editor and insert all kinds of entities in there. Of course, media, images, I didn't show that, but that's pretty basic. But you can also put in a lot more. So that was basically like a, yeah, question?
When you are using this editor, you let the end user to apply styling and colors and
No. No.
So that it's
We turn off most of all of the styling, so they cannot mess anything up. We don't want them to copy from Word, and then the magic starts happening. So I actually hope that that this gave you a little bit of idea of when to use paragraphs and when not to use paragraphs, and when to use a basic page with CK editor. But I promised you to show you a little bit like what we're actually doing today and what I think it is the future. So I also know that I told you before that Ruben is going to have a talk tomorrow, and Adrian, you're also going to be having a talk about something similar tomorrow as well. Yeah, different approach, but something similar. So therefore, I'm going to go, as I come from Iceland, then I think it is the time to do a live demo, right? So it's always dangerous. So this was Eyjafjallajökull that erupted and made everybody... Yeah, exactly. So what are we actually doing here? So as an information about this project, we are actually helping... So what we have been having as a problem for most of our editors is that what you saw before, which is like... I'm going to show you this here. So all this here, this is just not very user-friendly, right? So you have a content type that has 25 paragraphs, and all the way in the bottom you have all these paragraphs, and you then have to put it in, and you have to remember how it looked like, and this is just like, you know, then you have to press save, and then you have to check the page. So imagine we had this just with React. Just the same, that you have here an empty page. So this is our content type that we looked at before. And what we just do now, and I'm sorry if you can't read this, but on the left side, we have all the paragraphs that we looked at before. So we have a paragraph called introduction. We have a paragraph called, they're named something else, teasers, text headline, text image, video. So when I'm building my website, and this is all done with React, when I'm building the website, I basically drag it in here. And then I want to put a couple of teasers, and I drag them as well in here, put them below. And then maybe I want the text image. Let's put that in as well. And maybe a little mood board, because we like putting in photos. So these are the paragraphs that I choose to use on this page, because that looks good. So I'm going to save it. And this is completely an app in React, and there's just a Drupal backend running behind. So if I now go and I want to edit it, I basically just say here, hello, DDD. And of course we put in a little picture, and we promote, of course, Drupal Europe when we do that. And I just save it. So I'm going to show you one more thing here, is that I can actually demo this forever. Here's my daughter. So this is a paragraph. It's all paragraphs that we looked at before. It's a very large photo, so I hope that this works. So I put the paragraph in, and then I start editing this paragraph. And I can also show you in the back. So I shouldn't have uploaded such a large photo. But in the meantime, I can, of course, just write, my daughter, and then I even want to make this bold and italic, and come on, you can do it. What? Done. So, and now I see my page. 10 minutes left. We'll have to be quick. But if we look at this paragraph, we see on the left side the so-called configuration for that paragraph, which are the fields that we looked at before. So remember before we looked at we saw the color and if it is text-centered or something like that. Now we have the same, exactly the same. I'm going to show you actually how it is in the background. But this is just text right, image left, or here. Or do you want to have it small or big? Or do you want to have it in 16:9? No, it doesn't fit because the image doesn't have that format. So I just put it in 1:1. And I save it. So this is what we believe this is how Drupal should be, right? Do you agree? The question is this now, this is just a demo, and this is a very customized app for exactly this case, and we are really now looking at how we could introduce this into Drupal by allowing editing to feel this way with React. So if anybody is interested in any of this, then Ruben is the guy to speak to. He will also demo this again tomorrow and talk also about generally everything that we're doing, I think, as well as Drupal Europe, hopefully. Show you quickly the mood board as well. So, we have 5 images, 4 images, 3 images. You can imagine how happy the client is when we show him this. And if we go in the backend, so I'm going to, hopefully. So your colleague from Untitled. So there are a couple of people who've been playing around with this. What? Front-end United, yeah, there's a lot of demo. But if we go into the backend here, then I'm going to show you just what I was editing. So we have here DDD. I'm going to maybe make this a little bit larger. We go into edit, and here we see this is how the users do it today, right? This is how we want the users to do it in the future, right? Exactly. So of course you can, again, just edit it as well. I want to show you, this is the paragraph. The image options are here, right and left, and the image size, small and large. And here are the proportions that I showed you before. So if I just make any changes here, so this is Elva, and I save it, then I obviously only have to refresh here, and then the data will be in there. When it has loaded. No. So another magic that we did here as well is that the menu itself, for example, that's also very simple. You can just drag that up and down. So if you want to add a new item, for example here, this is a demo. You just save it. You go on the side. It says, ooh, it even has good information. Edit this page to add content to this page. It would even be nicer if there was an arrow showing up that you have to press this here, right? And then you just start putting in all these nice paragraphs that you have been using, right? So if you're interested in playing around with this, speak to Ruben or come to myself or anyone who is wearing these t-shirts. One next internet, I can probably show you that. If anybody is interested in brainstorming about how we can bring this into Drupal core, hopefully the 9.0, we don't have to be really quick. Exactly. Then let's talk about that. So to close off the session, we have to say thank you. And I hope to see you all in Drupal Europe, where we are going to be showing this in more details and hopefully even have a little demo of how we can contribute this into Drupal. We are also doing a lot generally. If you were in the talk with Stefan and Christoph yesterday, just decoupled with commerce as well with React Native and the VR. And we are going to be demoing that as well in Drupal Europe, as well as the VR solution that connects to commerce too. So if you're interested in anything of this, again, speak to the gang in the front. And I hope to see you all in Drupal Europe. And please, if you have a question, ask. If it becomes too technical, we have the whole team here, so go for it. Yeah. Thank you. So now I feel bad because I didn't have any photo of my son, except in the beginning. So any questions? Yes, there's a question there. Do they need the mic? Or I can also repeat it. Is it being recorded? No. Ooh, hello. Hello, world.
Hey. So I just played devil's advocate, and when your open doors page on webpage.test.org, and it takes 20 seconds to load, and it's 7.5 megabyte,
Yes.
and 6.5 is user images.
Yes.
Which in my experience is a typical problem if you give them that much flexibility.
Yeah.
What do you do on your projects to mitigate that?
So, Ruben, that actually you could probably answer, because generally we just build in normally just the responsive images and right?
You can't avoid to have to look through there. Okay.
Just come here. Ruben is my, like, he can answer these because yeah.
You have the mic?
Here, probably.
Hey, I guess you can't avoid to transfer the file when you really need a high-resolution image, but the idea is use techniques to improve the image quality at the same time that you reduce the size. I mean, there are a few modules that actually does that for Drupal. Does answer your question?
Yes. Do you build more on educating the users or using image compression?
So both. And that is also like very tricky because especially with these sites that are very, they have to work also, they have a lot of these white images. So the white images are mostly the problem, because if you have the small images, it's no problem because you can just really fix that. But the white images, we of course try to tell them that they have to upload it in a little bit less resolution and all that, but we
actually,
do our best.
And this is a desktop application. This is not prepared for mobile devices. So this intentionally is only for desktop.
Any more questions? So it doesn't... sit now, come, sit down.
Mine is not really a question, it's just to thank you to do this talk. I was already in Frankfurt, I think, and it helped me a lot to do a project that I needed to do.
Oh, thank you. That's good.
Yeah, this last part is like, wow.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's...
So how do you see the new layout builder fit in all this concept? Or
Yeah.
This is something I think often about, because the layout builder also provides somehow nice UI, but I don't see the connection, how it can be or play well together with paragraphs, or it's a different concept.
Exactly. And this is actually, I had this discussion yesterday about the layout builder, because we decide just in the projects that we are doing at the moment to kick that out and use paragraphs instead. So, but we are currently evaluating that, and the idea here would, of course, like, this is very flexible, because you can basically just put this in any way you want to, but at the moment we only have one layout. So we have been thinking about in this project here to see how we can actually, first step would be you select the layout, and then the second step would be to put the paragraphs in that layout. As well as, like, there's so much stuff here, also reusable paragraphs that we don't have at the moment, which also is a conflict here. It's a React app, so there's also a lot of things to think about regarding content editing. So what if I am on this page and I'm editing it, and you are in the same time editing it? So you have to start creating some locks. So that can become really tricky when you're building it this way. But yeah. But like I'm really hoping that we are like really brainstorming on how our next demo will be of this. We probably will not have it ready for Drupal Europe, but we're trying to at least like see how far we can get with it. But that will then hopefully introduce something like you have a content type, you have the layouts, and then you can put the paragraphs into there. So that would be the idea, right? But how does that work with the layout initiative and what they are doing? Let's have that discussion with them then when we have already built it that far that we can start having that conversation. Any more questions? No? So again, you find me on Twitter, you find Ruben everywhere. So regardless of what camp you go, he's there, both during the day as is in the evening. So yeah, just come and talk to us at any time. So thanks for coming.